Ladies and gentlemen, we have an absolute bombshell that just broke. The Big Ten is done with ESPN. ESPN officially pulled out of the Big Ten negotiations after saying no to the conference's final offer of a 7-year deal worth $380 million per year. According to an extremely reputable source, the news is undoubtedly historic. ESPN has carried Big Ten football and basketball games for the last 40 years. So guys, we are going to get into this. What does it mean for the Big Ten, who is likely going with a combination of Fox, CBS, and NBC? Noon window, 3:30, 7:30, alternating. You know, Big Noon is going to get some big games, but the 3:30 window, CBS will also get big games. NBC is going to get big games as well. So they're going to kind of alternate, it looks like, between who gets the biggest game each Saturday. And this is a crazy thing. How bad is the bias really going to get? It's already bad. And that's with ESPN carrying Big Ten games. We know how biased ESPN is towards the SEC. It's going to go off the rails now because there's really no incentive for ESPN to push the Big Ten. They're not going to be airing any of their live football games. This is an absolute bombshell, something nobody thought was going to happen. CBS, there were rumors about CBS, but how about NBC coming in last minute and saying, we want a 7:30 Saturday night college football Big Ten game, and then we want an 8 o'clock Sunday night football game back to back. That's how they wanted to market it. It is an absolute bombshell, a complete wild card. I thought it was going to be Fox obviously getting all the major rights to the Big Ten, because honestly, ESPN can't afford both the SEC and the Big Ten, and they're going to take the SEC because they've got the SEC network, they've got the ACC network, but they're completely priced out, and it's done. CBS is expected to pay $350 million per year in its new deal. That's according to a source. NBC is also expected to pay $350 million. That makes sense. Both CBS and NBC are getting very similar packages where they're going to have one big game at one specific time slot. CBS 3:30 games. We know they had the SEC on CBS at 3:30. They're just switching it now to the Big Ten on CBS. And there's actually a little bit of a timeline issue that we're going to get into with the CBS, how their contract with the SEC conflicts their new deal with the Big Ten. They're paying $350 million for that 3:30 window, and then you've got NBC forking over $350 million for the primetime 7:30 window, which will compete directly with Herb Street and Fowler, the ABC 7:30. And then we talk about it. With ESPN no longer in the mix to broadcast Big Ten football, expect the network to get involved with either or both, well, certainly the Pac-12 and possibly the Big 12 conferences whose rights come up next. The Pac-12 already opened its negotiation window with ESPN, and there have been rumored that ESPN has offered the Pac-12 a 12-year deal worth around $360 million total, which amounts to about $25 million per year per school. That's an offer that was rumored to be on the table from ESPN. They want those late night window games, and now they're probably even more desperate to get their hands not only in the Pac-12 and their Tier 1 rights, but also maybe the Big 12, because the only real thing we heard on the Big 12 was maybe CBS was interested. But now with ESPN completely losing out on any broadcast within the Big Ten, I would 100% expect them to shift their focus and their kind of the extra money they have now that they didn't spend on the Big Ten. They're going to shift that possibly and secure major Tier 1 rights within the Big 12 conference. That's my opinion on how they're going to play this, but this is crazy stuff. And this was kind of the overall conflict here There was well, actually, this is talking about the rumored interest from ESPN. Excuse me. This tweet right here. There was interest from the Big Ten in having a mid-afternoon 3:30 window with ESPN, but that was complicated by ESPN's incoming SEC deal, which starts in 2024. ESPN paid $300 million for its 10-year package with the SEC. What a bargain that is. Oh my goodness. That's a bargain and a half. That is a great deal for ESPN. $300 million for a 10-year package. ESPN has a mid-afternoon and primetime windows for its upcoming ESPN has mid-afternoon and primetime windows for its upcoming SEC deal, in addition to deals with the ACC and perhaps future deals with the Pac-12 and Big 12, as we've speculated. Nonetheless, this will mark the 40th and final year of ESPN broadcasting Big Ten football. One interesting crossover, and this is where the conflict is to keep an eye on. The Big Ten's next TV deal, which is expected to include CBS, starts in 2023. That is also the last year of the SEC current deal with CBS. How will CBS handle both next season? And the speculation is they could potentially get out of that SEC deal and go straight into the Big Ten a year early. So they would be getting out of it a year early, and in 2023, they would be going balls to the wall fully with the Big Ten 3:30 window, because there really is no way. It would be impossible if you have both the SEC, if you're CBS and you have the 3:30 window for the SEC's biggest game and you have the 3:30 for one of the Big Ten's biggest games. You can't do that. It's a massive scheduling conflict. You only have one channel. It's CBS, and you're airing two games at 3:30, so they're probably going to get out of their contract, hand off the 1-year rights to those big games, probably to ESPN for some amount of money, and they will take over for the Big Ten full-time, the 3:30 window, CBS, Big Ten on CBS, starting in 2023. This is an absolute historic development that is absolutely breaking right now as we react to this live. ESPN live college football with the Big Ten is done after this season. So this is huge, huge stuff. And guys, the thing you've got to be concerned about, ESPN, people always say, oh, the Big Ten doesn't need ESPN. No, it doesn't. The problem is ESPN still sets the overall narrative for college football when it comes to the rankings, when it comes to the playoff committee. They always have those shows, and now it's going to get even worse where they're going to bring people on that are so pro-SEC, and they're going to try and frame everything when all those top 25 shows, we know the committee releases it every Tuesday night starting in late October. We're going to be seeing a major SEC bias there, because there's just going to be no incentive to support the Big Ten if you are ESPN. So that's the major conflict I currently see with ESPN getting no rights. Personally, I love the idea of Ohio State games being on NBC, of Penn State games being on CBS, spread around the wealth. Normally, we're just getting either Fox networks or ESPN right now. We should be getting 3 overall networks. A scheduling model for Ohio State, in a year, like two big noon games, 2 3:30 CBS games, and then 3 primetime 7:30 NBC games. That's like a maybe an example of what Ohio State's future schedule could look like under this new deal. Spread out through 3 different networks. You're getting different announcers basically every game. It is such a better strategy. And then we've got, this is what the Big Ten is doing. Clearly, the Big Ten is looking to schedule its Saturday like an NFL Sunday, with the 3 windows on 3 different networks, noon on Fox, 3:30 on CBS, and 7:30 on NBC. But ESPN already has deals with the SEC and the ACC for such slots, with possible deals with the Pac-12 and the Big 12. So yeah, guys, once again, I'm expecting ESPN to pivot And I'm sure they allocated a certain amount of money in their budget for a major, rights deal with the Big Ten, to where it's like, it's the same relation. I'm sure they thought they were going to have a similar relationship with the Big Ten that they do right now, where Fox gets the first dibs, but they get the second dibs. And actually, some weeks, ESPN gets the first dibs for the major matchups. Well, actually, you know how it works? It works like throughout the entire season. So Fox gets the first pick, and they always pick Ohio State and Michigan. That's why the Ohio State-Michigan game is always on Fox now. That's why the Penn State-Ohio State game is normally on ESPN at night. And I think, like Ohio State, so this is what happened with the Ohio State-Notre Dame game. What happened with the rights? The first pick went to Fox, and they took the rivalry game, Ohio State-Michigan. The second pick went to ESPN, and they took Ohio State Notre Dame. That's why that game is on ABC. So this is a major loss for ESPN, and they're going to use the funds that they thought they were going to have to secure rights with the Big Ten. They're going to pivot, and they're going to use those funds on the Pac-12 and on the Big 12 possibly, because they were already interested in the Pac-12. I think the one thing that nobody saw coming was NBC's interest in getting a night game with the Big Ten. Very, very interesting. And also, I said in my last video, we know NBC has a relationship with Notre Dame. Could that help coax Notre Dame into possibly joining the Big Ten? The numbers being thrown around right now are unbelievable. We have CBS paying $350 million for one game. We have NBC paying for $350 million for one game. This is a potential total deal that's anywhere from $1.2 to $1.5 billion when you include the Fox money. It is absolutely historic, and that's what could help coax Notre Dame. When you look at the overall dollars, how much these teams are going to be making in revenue off TV deals every year, it is over $100 million per team per year just in TV money. So this is an absolute mega deal between 3 TV networks, and I think it worked out great. The only concern is the SEC bias with ESPN is going to be completely off the rails. I'm just warning everyone in advance. There is no incentive for ESPN to talk well about any team in the Big Ten. They're not airing any other games, so now it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get the SEC's better. The propaganda is only going to get worse. And unfortunately, those things do tend to work against general college casual football fans, unfortunately, because they're mainly watching ESPN networks. So the whole dynamic is really interesting. But at the end of the day, ESPN just looks like they got bid out here, and they will not carry any games in the Big Ten starting in the year 2023. And then the whole scheduling conflict with CBS having both rights to the SEC and the Big Ten. Once again, I think the speculation is CBS is going to try and get out of their SEC contract a year early and go full-fledged Big Ten action starting in 2023. That is the current speculation, and they'll hand over those 3:30 rights. The biggest game on CBS, that will go to ESPN, most likely, and ESPN will just have a complete bully total control over all of the top SEC games at that point. I don't know what other network would go, because we've got NBC in bed with the Big Ten. We have CBS in bed with the Big Ten. We know Fox. Those are the major networks. Who else is out there at this point? It's just ESPN and the SEC just completely groping each other at this point. And it is very, very interesting to see how this will play out. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.